I'm Artemis Javanshir.
And I'm Persis Driver.
We are the Fezana Religion Education Committee. This is the 7th in a series of short videos related to several Gothic concepts, ideas, and beliefs. We hope these short yet powerful conversations become the catalyst to inspire you to dive deeper into understanding Zarathustra's teachings. We are here with Dr. Keki Dadachanji, who has extensive experience in leading Gatha discussion series and who will be leading us in this series. Keki, we often hear, particularly from young Zarathushtis, questions about God. Is there a God in the Gathas? If so, how is this concept of God represented?
Yes. There are some questions that surface periodically during the discussion of the Gathas. The first set of questions relate to God. Is Mazda God? Is there any conception of God in the Gathas? Ultimately leading to, if I don't believe in God, can I still be a Zarathushti? There are similar questions raised about the subject of prayers. Why do I need to pray if I live my life in accordance with the teachings of Asha and principle of consequences? Is there a special place for prayers in the Gathas? Now, attempts to reach a consensus on answers to these questions have often failed. People have strongly held opinions and they remain unmoved. So in this session, I'm not going to offer any definitive answers to these questions. I simply want to share with you how I have thought about these questions and what conclusions I have reached personally about them. To answer the question, is Mazda God? We need to have a clear understanding of what the word God means to us. We can arrive at that understanding from various sources. We can get it from parents or teachers and adopt it unquestioningly or unexamined. We might borrow it from some other religious tradition we may be familiar with. Or we may get it from some books we may have read, both religious and secular. Finally, we may synthesize all these inputs and formulate our own conception of what God means to us personally. So, as a starting point, try to write down what God means to you personally. At a minimum, it will clarify, it will crystallize in your own mind what you mean by God. Then compare the way Mazda is portrayed in the Gathas to your personal conception of God. Then you will be in a position to answer the question, is Mazda God? Until you have done this process, it is meaningless to ask the question, is Mazda God? Someone who starts with a different understanding of God might arrive at a different conclusion from what you arrived at depending on your interpretation of what is meant by God. For example, if you have been brought up in a place where you are exposed largely to an Abrahamic religion, such as Christianity or Islam, apart from Zoroastrianism, your understanding of God might be a Yahweh as described in the Bible or Allah as described in the Quran. You will compare such a conception of God with the way Mazda is portrayed in the Gathas, and you might reach a conclusion that Mazda is not God. To clarify how you reach that conclusion, Mazda, as described in the Gathas, governs his creation through a couple of eternal spiritual laws, the law of Asha and the law of consequences. He does not give us commandments for specific situations. He expects us to figure out the right choice in any situation by applying our own vohu mano, our own natural moral intuition, to determine if the choice will promote Asha or frustrate Asha. Governing the creation's choices through such guiding principles is quite different from giving specific do's and don'ts in the form of commandments. And so you would reach the conclusion that Mazda, as represented in the Gathas, is not God. There is no such God in the Gathas. Many Zartushtis born and raised in Iran, for example, are largely exposed to Abrahamic religions. And therefore, through this kind of thought process, they arrive at the conclusion that Mazda is not God. Now, you can have a personal conception of God that is consistent with portrayal of Mazda in the Gathas. You can have it. Then you would say, Mazda is God. Many of our parents and grandparents believed this. Some of the translators of the Gathas refer to Mazda as God from time to time. For these people, God and Mazda are a tautology. They mean the same thing. Asking the question, is Mazda God, might seem to them a kind of later day intellectualization for something that for them is an obvious truth. It would not be right for us to impose our conception of God on others. And so we should not expect a definitive answer to the question, is Mazda God? We can only have answers that are right for us personally.
Yeah. Keki, extending, similar to this question, we also frequently get questions about the necessity of prayers and praying. Some people ask, isn't Zoroastrianism essentially just ethical living? They feel that if they live their life ethically, why do they need to pray? Now, of course, these are complex questions because so much is grounded in people's beliefs. However, based on your understanding of the Gathas, how do you respond to such questions?
With some trepidation.
Yeah.
Well, Zarathustra presents his foundational teachings, the principles of Asha and consequences, in Has 30 and 45. If Zarathustra's intent was to essentially teach his followers these foundational principles and guide them along the ethical living, he would have written only 2 songs, but he wrote 17 songs. So what is in those remaining 15 songs? One of the things that occupies substantial parts of the Gathas are Zarathustra's conversations with Mazda. Though the tone of those conversations is such that Zarathustra seems to be talking to a wise friend. What does he talk about? He asks Mazda many questions. He sometimes expresses frustration that the followers of the false are thwarting his efforts to spread Mazda's revelation to a large audience. Sometimes he asks Mazda to dispel some of his doubts. For example, he might say, I'm teaching my followers that their choices should be based on principles of asha and consequences. Is this right? Did I hear you right? Am I taking the right message to my followers? Please confirm. At other times, he seeks help and protection from kavis and karpans, the ruthless rulers and unprincipled priests who threaten Zarathustra and his followers all the time. Finally, he asks Mazda, what would be the ultimate destiny for me and my followers? And what will it be for the followers of the false? What is a prayer? A prayer is a form of communication with God, typically involving expressing gratitude, seeking guidance, resolving doubts, or asking for help. It can be done silently or aloud. This is what Zarathustra does with Mazda in good part of the Gathas. We can simply say that Zarathustra is praying to Mazda. If our understanding of the word God aligns with Gatha's description of Mazda, then we could say Zarathustra is praying to God. What is the practical relevance of all this? Through the example of Zarathustra, the Gathas tell us that we have an infinitely wise friend within us who is ever at hand to answer our questions, dispel our doubts, console us, and reassure us that we are not alone. When we pray the way Zarathustra is talking to Mazda in the Gathas, and not for some favors or boons, we are calling on this inner friend. The telephone line on which this call is made is called Sarosha. The call itself is a prayer. It is most effective if we improvise it in our own words. But it will also work if we take it from one of the prayers in the Zoroastrian tradition, which is entirely consistent with the message of the Gathas. In my view, Jasame Avanghe Mazda prayer, the third part of the Kasti prayers, is one such prayer. It starts with the Jasame Avange Mazda prayer is suitable because its language is simpler and more accessible than the language of the Gathas, so people can understand it. It starts with Jasame avang hai mazda, Jasame avang hai mazda, Jasame avang hai mazda. Come to my aid, O Mazda, help me. It has tremendous power to console the person seeking help, guide him, console the person suffering or feeling confused or lonely. I would like to leave this subject with a practical suggestion. If you are simply averse to the idea of God and ask, can I be a Zartushti without believing in God? Or can I be a Zartushti without having to pray? I would say, for now, leave these questions aside and learn to live your daily life in harmony with the teachings of Heart 30. Make all choices in daily living such that they promote Asha, promote the well-being of life at large, other people, animals, nature. When you consistently do that, your personality will be gradually transformed. You will be more patient, more forgiving, more loving, more insightful. You will be happy and peaceful. You will instinctively learn to speak to the friend within yourself. You will then understand what prayer means. You will understand that prayer means talking not with someone in outer galaxies, but someone within yourself. I have beheld Mazda with my mind's eye, says Zarathustra. And you will add, and I have talked to him. The questions you ask now will gradually fall away, and you will start looking with compassion at those who are still asking those questions.
Keki, thank you. These are important questions to reflect on and to arrive at our own conclusions. Next time, could you discuss the subject of teaching, bringing Zarathustra's message to a broader audience? How do we welcome people with whom that message resonates and who want to be accepted into the Zoroastrian community?
Very good. Let's try.
Thank you, Keki.
Mhm.
Until next time. Thank you.